there, welcome to Frontier Market Network, Africa's biggest deal-making platform. I'm Richard King. We recently published a press release announcing a call for applications for funding for project development in 6 pilot countries in Africa. My guests today to discuss challenges and opportunities associated with the current investment climate in Africa are Mantla Moyo and Ibn Welby Solomons from Social Alpha Impact Investment. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. The challenge for many businesses and governments has been incompetence in developing bankable investment projects that can attract big and even small-time financiers. We are now seeing organizations coming out to say they want to provide financing for project development. What does the landscape look like regarding access to financing for project development?
Thank you, Richard. I think the environment has been interesting. Certainly an opening up of markets and a real appetite to really want to fund and seek out bankable projects. I think there's certainly broad appreciation that Africa is well positioned for a long-term growth and development trajectory. And we're certainly seeing an increased appetite from development finance institutions who've obviously had a long-standing presence on the continent. What's quite exciting is there's a growing appetite to actually take more risk, to actually engage with smaller scale projects, to actually get involved in the earlier stages of project development.
Mantla, what's wrong with the projects that companies and specifically governments are putting forward, and what needs to be done to improve this?
Thanks, Richard. I'll mention 3 points which are relevant. Firstly, I find that in some cases projects are not aligned to what the market requires. The second challenge is around tapping into the right sources of funding. We find that depending on the life stage of the project and the type of project, different types of financing are more applicable. And the third challenge that I see is not going through all the hoops in terms of developing a successful project. We find that it can take 6 to 18 months to get a project to a bankable phase, and what typically happens is we do get, whether it's government or companies, coming up with a good idea, but not going through all the stages of assessing feasibility, assessing the right markets, assessing how that project should be rolled out.
Even what kind of opportunities are arising for consultants and experts out of the unbankable project scenario?
I think we believe there are several opportunities. I think we ourselves, coming from a strong corporate background and working with big 4 professional services firms and working with big corporates, is that there is a growing need for specialized assistance and help throughout the project development process. I think then there are also a number of other sort of emerging and new trends within the project development space. And this, for example, entails things like environmental, social, and governance standards that are being incorporated into projects. So I think we're living in a governance era where I think governance not only speaks to the effective management and direction that's being offered to these projects, but also how are stakeholders being included and being co-opted in these projects, because they often involve communities, they often involve users of that project or service. And these are all factors that really need to be considered. So I think the necessity for the use and the incorporation of external consultants like ourselves in these sorts of projects and engagements is really beneficial. And I think it certainly can both reduce risk, it can reduce cost in the long term, because these projects typically aren't of a short-term duration. You're typically looking at often multi-decade commitments.
In South Africa, there are a number of DFIs who are tasked with boosting projects. Is the public sector effectively tapping into this pool?
I think the answer is yes and no. I think I've seen many parts of the public sector that have made successful inroads in tapping DFI funding. But having said that, there's still a lot more that can be done. One of the biggest challenges in tapping DFI funding is really navigating through the process of accessing that funding. And I've typically found in my experience that many potential projects seem to fade away even before they get to even a form filling. And that's because accessing this funding, creating bankability and feasibility, in many cases is a full-time job. So I really think that challenge is really getting dedicated resources and capacity as well as knowledge in being able to navigate the landscape of tapping into DFI funding.